Booyah! And it's time for the Game Sports Podcast. It's your host, David McCaig Jr. Welcome to the show. If you're new to the show, well, we've been around for a long time. The Game Sports Podcast, formerly the Game Sports Show, has been around for over 10 years, and it is featured on Spaces, which is through Village Media, and also Sue Today. And we're also powered by 91 Network. That is a YouTube channel where you can check out all video editions of the show, and maybe that's where you are now, or maybe you're on the one of many audio platforms that we're on. But wherever you get your podcast, the Game Sports Podcast can be located. And on social media, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all at the Game Sports Podcast. Whatever way that you're tuning in right now, however you got here, or if you're interacting through the social media, nonetheless, make sure that you're hitting like, follow, and subscribe on the platforms. And look, we've been loving the interactions on social media, so do not be shy to leave those comments because we will respond. Now, the Game Sports Podcast has another basic type of agenda for you. Yeah, this week, last couple weeks has been more so straightforward. We've had a lot of hockey invasion in our content. As everybody knows, we talk all sports here on the Game Sports Podcast. Obviously, our core sports being hockey, football, and as well as baseball being the core, if you will, the three that we mainly talk about. But we do talk about every sport, especially when there's a lot of hot topics going on. But tonight, for sake of time, for the content we have planned, and for me going solo, you're going to have me solo to start the show for at least about 20 minutes or so. And then Jordan Trudeau is going to be coming on where we're going to have Chuck a Puck. And in my solo segment, I have a couple sports to dive into, but of course, I'm going to be diving into the trade deadline preview, if you will. So a lot of NHL discussion is going to be invaded in my solo segment here. Then Trudes and I will dive into the major junior hockey scene with a little extra love for the team that is locally based here with the Game Sports Podcast, same city, Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, Canada, the Soo Greyhounds. Look, I want to encourage looking at previous editions of the show, in particular our special edition shows. We've had over 60 of them. We've had many high-profile guests that go from Theo Fleury, John Morasti, Kelly Rudy, James Duthie, Marcel Dion, and Preet Mahavlich. The list goes on. Do not be shy to check out those editions. Doesn't matter if it's from 5 years ago, 4 years ago, a couple months ago, the one with Ryan Sproul. It is all about that individual, and that content never gets old. You can check it out. A lot of beauty episodes that you can check out on all platforms. And I want to promote the special edition because we have a few big shows planned. Yes, I'm not going to say who they are, but we're pretty excited about some guests that are coming on. And of course, I wouldn't be able to do it without the crew of the Game Sports Podcast family that all basically have been with me since the start. And of course, I want to also give a shout out to Jerry Rollinson, the student who's a part of the family right now doing his practicum with us and doing the editing and production. So thank you to everyone who makes this possible. But I want to promote the special editions for you because there's a lot that you can catch up on. Now, I wanted to dive in first, might be a little bit of a curveball, but into basketball. I don't know if anyone remembers how the Game Sports Show prior had our basketball segment with myself and Scott Nason. We did a podcast on Monday, then we did a hockey show, then we did a basketball show, there was a soccer show. To be honest, I don't know what we were thinking back in the day. It would have made a lot more sense to do multiple episodes in a week and combine everything into segments, but we weren't thinking at those times. But I want to talk about basketball because one of the best sports moments of my life, and I've been able to be a part of a few growing up myself while playing hockey, but watching sports, I haven't had a lot of enjoyable moments watching my favorite hockey sports team. And if you're on video, you can see what team that is in the background. There's been moments of enjoyment, celebration, but nothing that is like, I remember that is one of my favorite memories. Of course, hockey has a lot of memories when it comes to my life, when it comes to sports, in particular with the Olympics, 2002, Salt Lake, Crosby's golden goal, list goes on like that. But for sports, the Toronto Raptors winning the championship is as everyone knows, I'm a Toronto fan, is the only Toronto win that I have been able to see. I wasn't born in 67. I'm a 91 birth year. I'll be transparent with you. The most I've seen with the Maple Leafs is they got to the conference finals. They haven't won more than 3 rounds since I was alive, and they haven't won more than that since 67. That's enough to be said there. The Toronto Blue Jays, I was 1 and 2 years old when they won in 92, 93. I don't remember that. So obviously this past year with the Blue Jays making that run and Bautista's bat flip, there's a very highlighted sports moment. I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. I've seen a couple Super Bowls, and the Steelers have a lot of Super Bowls. There's been a lot of good moments in Pittsburgh, a lot of playoff football. Despite obviously the Pittsburgh Steelers being one of my favorite sports moments as well, it still isn't number one. I've been able to see the Toronto Raptors win a championship, and I remember that moment just being so exciting for me as a Toronto Raptor fan. And when the Raptors won the championship, just pure excitement at a local bar here in the Soo, who's obviously partnered with us, where they're in the Pocket segment, Sports Center Bar and Grill. Shout out to Sports Center. Such a fantastic moment, and I literally watched in that bar until the final moments of when the credits basically came on at TSN. Basically, when the credits came on. All right. And I want to talk about basketball here to start just briefly, because obviously when it comes to basketball chat, it isn't an invasion of our content here on the Game Sports Podcast. But obviously watching the Raptors, always watching sports in its entirety. But the Raptors have been playing some good basketball this year. The Raptors have 35-25 record at the time of with this recording, which is right now March 3rd, and consistent. They're 10.5 games back of the Pistons, who have been absolutely great and took a long time coming, some good rebuilding there in Detroit. But it's a very heavy Eastern Conference. You have the Pistons, Celtics, Knicks, Cavs, Raptors. You can't count out a team that's like Miami. Orlando has some good talent there. All in all, that East is pretty good. But you look over at the West, you obviously got the OKC Thunder. I said this a few years back on the show that OKC is going to be a dynasty. And I don't think I'm wrong. And I love that their best player is Canadian. I love that still the best player, in my opinion, in the game is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. This is great to see that. I believe the West is still ahead of the East when it comes to talent. The Thunder, the Spurs, the Rockets, Timberwolves, Lakers, whenever you got LeBron, no matter his age, the Nuggets, Jokic, there's a lot of talent in that West. And you know what? Basketball, I've had my group of friends tell me that they've lost interest in watching basketball as much. And me being not only just because being a sports podcast host, being a sports fan, enjoy watching all sports, especially my favorite teams. But I understand where the value of basketball has dropped and hasn't been the same since it was late 90s, early thousands. But there's still a lot of talent and there's still a lot of parity in the NBA. And I want to say, for those that feel that they are not enjoying basketball as much, I want to know why. Because to be honest, I get it. I get it. Players joining teams even before COVID, with you had Bosh, Wade, and LeBron in Miami, obviously in the 10s. You had teams stacking players, Golden State winning all times, either Cleveland or it was Golden State or it was Miami. Okay, they're the same teams, right? And you're going to see Oklahoma City, because they have 75 million draft picks still up to come, because of obviously, with the Clippers trade, right? You just absolutely shredded that franchise. You have draft picks, you have your own. They have players that are already stars in the league and they've won championship already. Look, I get it, but I just want to know why you don't. Because for me, the thing is, basketball, you obviously have depth. You have players that start on the court. But at the end of the day, don't build it like you build a hockey team. It's not built like you build a football team. Basketball is built differently. And a lot of the feedback I'm getting from friends and even some viewers and listeners who have said, Dave, I've listened to your show and you mentioned your core three and you don't do as much basketball as you didn't before. And I think that's good. I know that's been some feedback where we have our core and we talk about some a little bit, and this is being that little bit. But I want to know your feedback. Why do you think basketball excitement has gotten worse? Is it because of the players? Is it because of the talent? Is it because it's predictable? Is it because it's more drama than it is excitement? What is your reason? Mine is the predictability in basketball. I feel that Oklahoma City is, along with other teams, are gross, but they're just ahead. You could predict that this team's going to win multiple championships in just as many years. And that's why, as a Toronto Raptors fan, I've always been proud of saying that I'm happy that one of the best sports moments for me is when the Raptors won the championship, because at the end of the day, you have a team that defied all odds. And I'm looking here, obviously, just looking at the at the stats, Oklahoma City being 47-15, and you can look back to 2019 when the Raptors got Kawhi Leonard. Just look at the standings, looking at different years and parity. Despite predictability, there has been some decent parity, but there's been teams that have just been far than the teams that are still good, but they're just not as good. You have your top, middle, then you have your bad teams. And some of those bad teams, obviously Indiana struggling this year, Brooklyn struggling, the Bulls are struggling, Sacramento, poor Sacramento, they always seem to be at the bottom, can't get a break, right? So I want to know why for you. Mine's predictability. What do you say? Basketball season, there's a little love for basketball for you. And yes, if you must know, there was a request to talk about it a little bit more today from a fan and some new fans of the show to get my opinion on the Toronto Raptors, some friends, but also the NBA to see. I don't know if it's just a quiz or you want to hear it. Well, guess what? You got your wish. Here's my feedback. And my feedback is I want to get your feedback about the NBA and what you feel about it. Now, transitioning to the NHL, I only have, like I said, just about 20, maybe 25 minutes before Trude's is on in total for this segment. So Trude's will be on in the next 7 to 10 minutes. So I'm going to make sure I use this time as wisely as I can. Obviously, we're past the Olympic break now. Everyone is still feeling the disappointment in terms of if you're a Canadian fan with the loss to the United States in the gold medal game. A lot of people not happy that it ended in a quote-unquote skills competition. Look, we're not here to talk about the Olympics. We moved on. The hockey season has resumed, and the trade deadline nears. And as the trade deadline nears, what I want to say, this is a very unique league this year. We've talked about a lot on this show with there being, and I'm going to use Brendan's reference to this. He's called the standings drunk. But we did discuss how when we get to this point that we are now in the season, you're going to start seeing separation. And we are seeing that. Tampa running away with I shouldn't say running away with the Atlantic Division. Shouldn't say that. But obviously, they're the top of the division. They're 4 points up on Buffalo and Detroit at the time that we're talking this. But I mean, running away with likely clinching a playoff spot very soon. And Buffalo and Detroit, absolute bandwagons. There's only a matter of time for those teams to eventually get and right the ship, right? Especially the Buffalo Sabres. And teams that probably a little bit surprising this year. Some, the Toronto Maple Leafs, some are surprised, some aren't where they are. Boston started to fall off a little bit now, right? Montreal cooled down a bit, but they're still hanging in there. You have the Pittsburgh Penguins who came out of nowhere. The New Jersey Devils being more so at the bottom. Same with the New York Rangers. There's been some surprises this year. So I would say that despite that the standings were drunk to begin the year, using Brendan's words again, it's definitely now spread out. And now that we sit here, we are near the trade deadline, and there's a lot of unique circumstances in this situation for teams. And I'm going to use, surprise, surprise, the Toronto Maple Leafs as an example. There was a TikTok that I saw. Of course, I was strolling TikTok, and I was looking at my activity, and I had a response that I was looking at online. And there was a hockey individual that was a Toronto Maple Leaf fan. And they had indicated a question from another podcast saying, tank for McKenna, tank for McKenna. Going into action last night against the Philadelphia Flyers, Toronto Maple Leafs were at a middle standstill. And these aren't quotes from the TikTok I saw, but just taking a summary of it. They were just as far away basically from a playoff spot as they were from last in the standings. And from a statistical perspective, it's harder to lose those games than it may be to go for the playoffs. And if you listen to last week's episode, I had some bold predictions, and I wonder if maybe my drink had me making lies up here last week, as I have my one drink per show. It's been my tradition since back in the McDonald's all-day breakfast days. We had the Shamrock Shake back in 2016, if you know, you know, and when Mr. Electric Avenue was introduced, if you know, you know as well. But I predicted the Leafs making the playoffs in Binnington, going to the Edmonton Oilers. I have different opinions this week, to be honest. I do think Binnington gets traded. I don't think it's the Oilers. I think it's Montreal. I'll say that flat out. He's not one of the players I'm really going to talk about. And really watching the Leafs, these 3 games out of the Olympics, I thought they would carry some momentum. Same with Austin Matthews. And no, that did not happen. That did not happen whatsoever. They lost their first 3 games, Tampa, Florida, Ottawa. Pivotal divisional matchups that they lost. They go against the Philadelphia Flyers. They lose in a shootout. Trevor Zegras in a shootout is money, may I add. It's not like there's only 5 games left. There is still 20 games left. But going to this point where I was mentioning about the TikTok, it is statistically harder to tank than it would be to make the playoffs. You can look that up. The only way you can make yourself tank is if Matthews goes on IR, Nye goes on IR, Tavares goes on IR, and Nylander goes on IR. You sell everybody else at the deadline. Hildeby and Wall don't play. You call up the Marley's backup or the ECHL backup. But then guess what? You do that, there's going to be investigations. You might have to forfeit your pick anyways. These guys are not wired to lose. These guys are wired to compete. This is their job. And maybe that's part of the problem. In Toronto, a lot of the players don't play that it's the heart and what they want to do. They play because it's their job. That's what it seems like. And as fans, we're fed up seeing it. But I use Leafs as an example from the seller standpoint because there are teams that are in that divide that you're close and you can sniff it, but you don't know if you want to go for it. That's the Ottawa Senators, the Toronto Maple Leafs. You can still throw Florida in there. Florida's sneaky. They can go on a tear. You got the Columbus Blue Jackets, Washington Capitals, right? And I'm just looking at the Eastern Conference right now. If you look at the Western Conference, it's a little bit more separated, I feel like. Unless you're the Utah Mammoth, obviously got Edmonton as fourth in their division right now, but I think the Eastern Conference is where you don't know where you can end up a week from now. You can go on a 5-game winning streak, get 10 points. And if the Leafs got 10 points, all of a sudden, if Boston loses 4 in a row, they're ahead of Boston there. And if Montreal only wins 50%, they're only knocking behind 4 to 6 points behind Montreal. And then you're just right there in the wild card. Maybe you're only 2 points, 4 points out of the wild card spot, right? Things can happen. And the Leafs don't have draft picks this year, next year, top picks. Some other teams that are on the bubble, if you look at, I'm going to throw Boston in there, who's a team, obviously, who is in the wild card spot, but I'll still throw them in kind of a bubble spot. Look at Washington and look at Columbus. Okay, these are some teams that have assets that they can move, especially the Columbus Blue Jackets. So that's why, do you sell? Do you just build on what you got? And I think that's where it gets very unique. For teams like Columbus that have young talent, Johnson, Fantilli, the Montreal Canadiens, Slavkovsky, Caulfield, Suzuki, guys are just getting Demidov, getting to their own. I don't think you need to sell, and I don't think you need to buy and overpay to move out assets. I think you keep going and keep building. For teams like Tampa, heck, even the Buffalo Sabres have waited a long time to get this point. They got a lot of assets, though. Where they are and how much of a wagon they've been, they can sell off some assets. But Tampa, Carolina, the Colorado Avalanche, Dallas Stars, these are teams that have been waiting to win, except Colorado's won recently, of course, and Tampa Bay's won recently, of course. They want to win a little bit more, and they're getting to maybe more of an end of window, that being Tampa sort of. They're going to be aggressive still. They have some guys who are going to be around for a little bit, but a lot of teams are catching up now and being very competitive. I think Tampa sees an opportunity and they can really buy. Obviously, the Colorado Avalanche, because of how good they are, they can add, right? So they're in a very unique position, a lot of teams. If you're a seller, you're a seller. The sellers, I'm going to talk about who I think sellers are and buyers. I am going to separate them, but I am going to have some teams that are sellers that I mentioned that are maybe more so on the mid-pack. The slam dunk sellers I'll mention, but those are the teams that are going to be selling assets. They're not even thinking. They're thinking future. They're thinking McKenna. They're thinking DuPont. They're thinking other players down the road that are going to help them in the future because they have no chance this year, even next year. So it's a very unique NHL season, okay? And as I said here, sorry for on video. Sometimes I talk with my hands a lot and I'm shaking the camera. My apologies. So I want to get into where I wrote notes to myself to where I feel from a trade deadline theme. Okay, I'll call this a trade deadline theme. There is, I would say, almost a dozen legit buyers. Maybe that sounds like legit teams that they're either on the bubble, top in the conference. You're looking at maybe a dozen, 10 to 12 for sure 8 legit buyers around that, but I'll say close to double digits more so, 10 to 12 legit buyers. And compare that to sellers, it's less. Okay? Now, let's look at the East. For sellers, like I said, be mindful of this. I'm not saying sellers are tanks. So I'm going to say from a soft seller perspective, you have the Toronto Maple Leafs, okay? It's more of a retool talk. New York Rangers, that's a seller. New Jersey Devils, I think that is also a soft seller because of some young prospects that they have on that team. That's from the Eastern Conference. From the West, Vancouver, full sell, blow it up. From the St. Louis Blues, that is also a sellers. Calgary Flames, sellers. All right. Chicago Blackhawks, off seller. I know it may come as a surprise, but the sellers last few years, they've already traded Murphy. This is a team that has some guys that they can move out, some veteran guys, get some assets. Nashville Predators, another soft seller. Okay. Those are some key soft sellers and sellers. The highlighted sellers, the slam dunk ones, are the St. Louis Blues, Vancouver Canucks, Calgary Flames, New York Rangers. Okay, those are the slam dunks. From the Western and Eastern Conference for buyers, started in the West, Colorado, Dallas, Minnesota, Utah, Vegas, Edmonton. Very simple. From the East, Tampa, Buffalo, Montreal, Detroit, and Carolina. And no, I don't have Pittsburgh in there. Okay. So now that you have a lot, I mentioned a fair bit of sellers and soft sellers. Okay. The soft sellers, if you combine them with sellers in combination to the buyers that I mentioned, it looks and sounds more even. Okay. That's why I want to include the soft sellers. But if you compare the absolute sellers to the buyers, there is obviously more buyers. Okay. As I mentioned, 8 to maybe even 12 people that feel like they can buy. And some of those soft sellers that I mentioned, not being Toronto, may feel like they can buy. But from what I'm understanding and reading, that doesn't seem to be the case. And if you're a Leaf fan, like I am, you're thankful that if that's the case. So let me go to some teams and give you some names that would be available. The Toronto Maple Leafs have Oliver Ekman-Larsson, Matthias Michelli in there. I also think Anthony Stolarz is one. I know that'd be very surprising to some, but I think he is one as well that could be on the move. Now, I know everyone's thinking Morgan Riley. I'm going to tell you right now, I agree, but that is an off-season trade. Brendan Carlo is also someone to trade. So if you got Carlo, you got Larson, you got Max Domi, you got Matthias Michelli, those are names. But the slam dunk people that you have to move is Bobby McMahon, Oliver Ekman-Larsson, Brendan Carlo, and look at moving Matthias Michelli. Those would be the moves that I'd be looking to make to recoup some draft picks. And you can get a first in there. You can get some good prospects in there. To be honest, let me give you a hypothetical for Toronto. I'm going to give them a little bit more love. Oliver Ekman-Larsson, Bobby McMahon, Edmonton Oilers, Bo Akey, take on Andrew Mangiapane, and maybe one or two first-round picks. That gets it done. Retain both players. The Edmonton Oilers get a defenseman and another forward to add for their playoff run. If I'm the New York Rangers, Vincent Trocheck. And I'm also looking at maybe moving Mika Zibanejad. People say Alexis Lafreniere. That's an off-season move. New Jersey Devils, Dougie Hamilton. And I got a surprise for you, Nico Hischier. The Vancouver Canucks, I'd be licking the chops if I'm the Buffalo Sabres. If I'm even the Dallas Stars, there's options here. But Elias Pettersson, and I'm going to throw Evander Kane, playoff experience, guy who gets into the dirty areas of the ice. I feel like that would be somebody a lot of high-end playoff teams that are contending for the cup would look for. Bold prediction, Pettersson to the Buffalo Sabres. St. Louis Blues, I'm looking at Jordan Kyrou, Pavel Buchnevich, Robert Thomas, and Jordan Binnington. I will mention Binnington. Calgary Flames, Nazem Kadri, and I'm even looking at a veteran like Michael Backlund. Okay, I am looking at Backlund at being somebody that they would move. The Chicago Blackhawks, I've mentioned Hall in previous shows, Foligno, these guys that are veteran pieces. I mentioned it earlier, but I'm going to also mention Dickinson, could be someone, McCabe. That could be someone that gets the job done. Nashville Predators, very interesting, very interesting. Ryan O'Reilly, Steven Stamkos. So those are some names from the seller's perspective that you can look at from getting moved. All right. If I'm looking at anyone who would be a slam dunk move to be moved, I would have to say that Elias Pettersson is not a slam dunk move. But Nazem Kadri, I feel that he is. Steven Stamkos, I feel that he is. Bobby McMahon in Toronto and Oliver Ekman-Larsson, I feel that Bobby McMahon is the slam dunk. Oliver Ekman-Larsson has term and wants to stay in Toronto. Despite if you're a Leaf fan, again, like I am, that wants to see those guys move. The Leafs are that soft seller, but they should sell both players amongst others. So should these other teams. Dougie Hamilton, big contract. That's going to be an off-season move. There's players that have specific contracts that are going to cause some issues. But if the teams are smart, I'm going to tell you right now, this is a seller's market. I mentioned that there's more buyers and optimistic buyers, let's call them, than there is total sellers. And if you're a soft seller and you have a premium asset, some of these buyers are going to pay a premium so they can make a run because they feel that they could make that run. So that is my hole when it comes to a trade deadline preview. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that where this player is going to go in total. I had some predictions for you, just like I thought Pettersson would be a good fit in Buffalo. Maybe that's a surprise to you. Bobby McMahon in OEL. going to the Edmonton Oilers. Jordan Binnington to the Montreal Canadiens. Those are some names that I've given you throughout this segment. But out of the sellers, despite mentioning sellers and soft sellers again, that seems to equal the buyers and the optimistic buyers. If you look at the slam dunk sellers that know that they're selling, there's more buyers than there are sellers. So if you're a seller, it is a seller's market. Let me tell you that right now. And you could sell people at a premium. That is great. If you are a seller, and if you're a team like Toronto, if you're a team like Vancouver, two different teams, let me tell you, right now in the standings, but it's hard for both teams. One's a seller, one is a soft seller. But if you look at Toronto, not a lot of future assets. Vancouver, they have an amazing opportunity with Pettersson, with Besser, Demko, even if he can ever really stay healthy. Tyler Myers, these guys that they can move, it's very attractive. And Nazem Kadri getting a lot of heat, a lot of want with Nazem Kadri. If you're a Leaf fan, wouldn't you love to have Mason Marchment, Zach Hyman, Nazem Kadri line, or those players on your team? Wait, you did. Sometimes trade deadlines, trade season in general, but free agency teams can be a little over aggressive. And that's why I'm telling you, if you're a seller, and I'm telling you again from a little biased perspective as a Toronto fan, I'll even go to some of the other soft sellers that I had mentioned. Nashville, sell. I'm not saying tank, but sell those expiring deals, capitalize on getting assets, because the next few drafts are very intriguing and attractive. And who better than to talk about the major junior scene with some of those prospects that are coming up as Jordan Trudeau. This is the Chuck-a-Puck segment. Jordan Trudeau, my man, my friend, good to have you back on, chatting a little bit of major junior and of course, a whole lot of Greyhounds. How's everything been?
Good evening. My week has started off great. It's only a 4-day week, actually. Friday is PD days. Only got 2 more days left of I guess want to say the real job. Fridays, it's not really like a break. Like you still have to go to work, but it's kind of like a break. I don't know how to explain it. It's tough to explain, but yeah, no, it's good. Better. I think I had a better weekend than the Greyhounds did. So I'm gonna be honest. So we'll talk about that.
Yeah, it wasn't great. It wasn't great. Well, let's before we spin into Chuck-a-Puck a little, dive into a little bit of your social media. We had a post on your social media with some art.
Oh yes.
So I just wanted to add that you had some art on it, and I liked it. I want to know if that was you that did that, or if that was Holly, or if that was someone else.
No, it was me. It was me. I that's the subject I teach right now. Is art. So
love that. Okay.
Not really my niche. Not really my niche. If you're listening, and it's not my niche, but that's what happens sometimes. You get put in a place where you just that's the position that's open, and you're the person that they need to fill it with. So no, I'm having fun. I'm actually really enjoying it.
And your students are having fun on our TikTok page too. A little bit.
They like to have fun just in general. So yeah, it's nice to see some positive feedback.
It's been appropriate.
Positive feedback and appropriate feedback.
They've been saying, Mr. Trudeau, or hey, that's my French teacher. Like, that's great stuff. That's great stuff.
Ooh, now, huge breath out for that.
Yes, major junior scene right now. It's getting to the thick of things. We're in the last near 30 days, give or take, of the season, given this recording, the time of this recording, and we're going to talk about the Greyhounds momentarily. But if you look at the whole OHL landscape right now, it is I've used this word a little bit on this show because Brendan used it. We called the standings drunk in the NHL earlier this year. Now that's not the case, and I don't really want to use that term for this, but obviously there's been the separation throughout as the season progressed. There's been that separation. And the Hounds, obviously in the last 10 played near 500 hockey, but if you look at the teams that are above them, they're not playing the near 500 hockey. Kitchener-Wayne Rangers looking good, winners of 8 out of their last 10. Look at Windsor, 7 of the last 10. Flint's the only one who is a bit better when they're 6 of their last 10. If you look over at the Eastern Conference, Barrie, 9 of the last 10. Brantford, 7 of the last 10. Give me this one. Now North Bay Battalion 8 out of their last 10. The worst team that's been in the last 10 in the Eastern Conference is Brampton with no wins in the last 10. And if you look back even to the way that the last 10 has been for teams in the East, has been a little bit balanced. A lot of 500 hockey. Saginaw, Sarnia, a little just under 500, either 500 or just under. And given this week right now, the Hounds remain fourth in the Western Conference. And first round matchup opponents looking a little like it seems like it's almost not going to be a foregone conclusion, but the separation is there who their first round matchup might be. But talking about the whole league in itself, Trudes, it's coming down to the last month of the season, and teams need to get their mentality ready for the playoffs. You're playing playoff hockey right now, and there's a lot of teams that have been playing like it's playoff hockey, but playing very well. That is Brantford, that is Barrie, that's Kitchener, and that is also Windsor. Teams have been looking pretty good and showing why they're the tops of their conferences.
No, that's true. I was gonna say exactly that. Like that was in my notes. North Bay was in my notes, Kitchener was in my notes, Windsor was in my notes. So like yeah,
Great minds
exactly
think
like you
alike.
said. Great minds think alike. Exactly like you said, these teams are proving why, like Kitchener, Windsor, Flint more specifically, are proving why they bought at the deadline, why they went out and they believed in their core group and they went and, added some pieces that really, really complemented their core groups. And yeah, they're proving it right now. They're playing some great hockey. One team I did note actually was the North Bay Battalion, who you said they won 4 in a row, 8 in their last 10. And they're 1 point from home ice advantage in the playoffs. They trailed Peterborough Petes by 1 point. So kind of giving some love over to our northern neighbors, 5 hours east there in North Bay. I lived there for 1 year. I really enjoyed it, and I would do it again if I ever got the chance.
Some Sioux ties there too. Some Sioux ties there from
There is some Sioux ties there. Yes.
but in the past for the Matteo.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
So just
Michael
going,
Mario
I went more
was
past. I went more past.
Yeah. He was a huge member of that team.
Yes.
Quite a few years ago that had a deep playoff run.
Yep.
And
Yep.
yeah, I mean, the Kitchener Rangers, the Greyhounds are going to meet them on Friday, and they look to be playing some really strong hockey, near unbeatable hockey. So this is a point in time where, it's almost next to impossible to catch them. I would say at this point after Friday's loss, which was super disappointing. I think everybody knows that. Everybody watched that. Everybody had the same thought. And then if you read Peter Ricci's article on SiouxGreyhounds.com, you could see how disappointed the players and the coaching staff were about that result and that performance. So I think now, being with the separation that you mentioned, yeah, it's tough to catch them. It's going to be really difficult, but you still have something to play for, right? You still have to see how you match up against the best teams in your conference. It's Flint tomorrow, Wednesday. It's Kitchener Friday. It's been a struggle lately for this hockey club. Like, the amount of odd man rushes they gave up on Friday was super uncharacteristic. Like, I've always talked about how great this team is defensively and how much better they got because of acquiring Carter George. Like, he just added that final boost that this team needed, and just odd man rush after odd man rush. Seems like they got caught. They were in between. I thought their start was great. Like, I thought they came out good, and then it kind of just lapsed in the second, gave up 3 quick goals, and then they weren't able to overcome it. So, I mean, yeah, you know what? It's a new week, and it's got to be hard not to be pumped about these two matchups, even though they're on the road. And like, they're huge for a different reason. They're huge because it's about sending a message. It's about the belief now. It's about putting together a strong 60 minutes and getting the confidence in the dressing room to say, we can beat these guys. We can beat Flint. We can beat Kitchener. That's what you want to attain this weekend. You want to have strong games. Going to be difficult to win. I think you're in tough all weekend. Like, it's going to be tough to win out now, and that's what you basically have to do. So the Hounds are looking at a first round matchup against London, but just to have that strong play, that strong 60 minutes to send a message to the other dressing room, but also your dressing room, and say, like, no, we're meant to be here. We can play with these guys and we can beat them. And that's going to be the goal, I think, for this hockey club. Much more than the 4 points, the big 4 points in the upcoming 2 games, but just to, like, be able to say that you beat them and to have that in the back burner now coming into March and moving on. And when you meet them in the playoffs, hopefully you meet them in the playoffs to have that, thought that, yeah, we played with them, we beat them recently, and we can do this.
So I like to, this is a hot take. Sioux people might not like this. That's fine. I'll take the interaction for it or the feedback. The Sioux fan base, the way that I think of it, is a lot like a Toronto fan base in a certain way, except we're louder in our rink and we only have 5,000 people. I just mean when the Hounds get scored on, when they're down in a game, the air sucks out of that building so quick.
Oh yeah,
Out of
you can feel it.
very quickly. Doesn't matter who you're playing or what you're playing. Negativity kicks in a lot. And I've been looking at other teams' social medias. I keep an eye on Kitchener's. I think Kitchener's got a great squad this year. Compliments to them. London. I also Ottawa 67s. I've looked at recently Sudbury, which is very close to us, of course, here in Sault Ste. Marie. Just like looking at their different fan pages. And don't get me wrong, people have opinions. Everyone does. The world of media, social media. We had Andrew Palaya on there. I remembered his last name without even having to think about it, which is wild. But social media is people's feedback. And I mentioned Andrew because I'm just referencing the social media points. If you wonder where I'm going with the Andrew thing, it's just social media. People have a lot of comments to say about who should what, do what, and say what. When I look at these other teams' fan bases, there's feedback there. Don't get me wrong. But I've been into some of these rinks. I've been in Sudbury's. I've been in Kitchener's. I've had the opportunity to be in North Bay's. And, those are fan bases that I see that don't let up. Down 1-0, 2-0. It's loud. It's passionate. It's Kitchener especially was also another, a rink that I can't forget to say. And Windsor was one when I was younger, but I don't want to reference something too old.
That old Windsor barn was awesome. I went there once.
Yeah, it's
yeah,
passionate, man, passionate. And I people are entitled to their opinion. They are, and the Hounds have battled the bug this year. They have battled the bug. They've battled. They had some time without Brady. The power play hasn't been great. A lot of it, Chase Reed's absence doesn't help. But the comments online, it's like I think the Sioux fan base needs to be the way that it was, which is why I compare them to Toronto a lot. To again, two different leagues, because of the days that late 90s, early thousands with Kennedy, Carter, the old guard, and you couldn't get anywhere standing. The hot ticket, everyone was yelling. The Memorial Gardens was shaking, was rocking, and that helps a team win hockey games. Is that belief in that home ice advantage. That is what's key, and I feel like that is something that's an ingredient missing at times in our fan base. And I mean that with love, Sault Ste. Marie. I mean that with love.
I get their frustration though. Like I think it's like the last time the Greyhounds won the division or the conference was what, right? It was going to be almost 10 years ago now. Like it's going to be 7 years ago. Well, there's a COVID year in there, so we lost 1 or maybe 2 years. So roughly 6 years ago or 7 years ago. So I mean, I think that's where the frustration is coming from, and I can think that's where the points that you're making, and I'm just I'm not that I'm defending it, but I think that's where it's coming from, right? Like I think it's frustration that, it's been either middle of the pack for too long, middle of the pack or closer to the bottom of the pack for too long. There hasn't been a dominant Greyhound team like we saw in 2018 or in 2015. Like we had a really, really fortunate couple of years there in 2015 and 2018 where you saw some really strong Greyhound teams, maybe the strongest ever. Maybe can make a case for like some of the strongest teams of the quarter of the century. I would say
even teams that won. They even combination of teams that won.
So I mean, have the Greyhounds had a solid development model? Have they had a solid have they had solid performance over the past 5 years? Absolutely. Like they are consistent and they are solid. They are good. They are tough to play against. But I think it's that second round win that they're looking for, that John Dean and his staff are looking for. And
who does that remind?
Every year. Well, like you said it, yeah. There's a lot of similarities between the Maple Leafs and the Greyhounds. Or fan
not
bases.
Just Dubas,
if you're a fan, not just Dubas. If you're a fan of both, yeah, it's tough on you.
Yeah,
and every year is different. Like, I don't want to come in here and say, and they do that with the Leafs too. For example, I love the stat that goes up. Here's Austin Matthews' stats in game sevens in the past, over the past 9 years. And then, and it's obviously he's for elimination games, he's 1-11 with 3 points. Statistic wise, that's such a small sample size, and there's the whole analytical piece, but also every single year is different. When you look at when the Leafs, like all those game sevens they lost, there were reasons why they lost those game sevens. Carey Price,
Bobrovsky.
Florida Panthers, Tampa Bay Lightning. They lost
Boston
these teams
Bruins.
that went on to win the Stanley Cup or be in the finals. So like every year is different, but it's still on your mind. It's still that second round win. So I don't want to say there's pressure, but I think this year it's a new kind of pressure. They sold all they had for Carter George because they believe in this group. Can this group be the group to make it out of the second round in the John Dean era of coaching?
So
we're gonna see.
That's the thing is there's struggles in a season. It doesn't matter what level you play at. And I'm pulling away from the NHL examples now because the Leafs obviously have not broken any Ballard curse since 67, or they haven't won more than 3 rounds since 67. They made the conference finals twice. Remember 98 and 2002, Buffalo and Carolina, and they lost. And I cried both those times. And I was 7-11. Okay, everybody, I was sad because don't worry, they're going to get back. And guess what? They haven't. So gonna say that team struggles throughout the years. Every team does. And again, pulling away from playoff examples, but each time, if they always said that some of the great coaches that I've had the pleasure of connecting with a lot and even had the chance to interview on the show, Bruce Boudreau, Ben Boudreau, his son, who's doing great in the minor league system, but Bruce, great hockey mind that's been on this show. He has even mentioned on here, and I remember it vividly talking about, and you could check that previous special edition out, teams go out through struggles, players have struggles with coaches. But teams have struggles throughout the season, and sometimes it's best to get it out before playoff hockey. As long as you can go into the playoffs with a 1 or 2 weeks worth of momentum, you can keep that going. So I'm not saying that the Greyhounds are going to do that, but I'm saying that teams that are struggling, sort of, right now are not meeting expectations. Let's not say struggling, but meeting expectations. That being the Greyhounds, that also being, I guess you can throw the Ottawa 67s are 5-4-1, and they're past 10. Some teams are struggling and not consistent right now. I was told by a lot of coaches that if they're going to struggle, it's 1 to 2 months before playoff hockey.
Better struggle now. Yeah.
Because they're going to figure it out before going into playoff hockey, you hope, and you hope they bounce out of it. Now, the thing is, what I think from a major junior perspective is this may sound crazy because the NHL is the highest you can play, but there's no one harder on anyone but yourself. And when you're a young hockey player, Brady Martin is a 5th overall pick. He knows he's going to the show. He knows he's going to be an it guy in the show. Maybe not a Crosby, McDavid. But you know what? He's going to be a top 9 forward.
He's going to be an effective player.
Top 6 player. Yeah, exactly. Very effective. Chase Reed, same. Guy went from a 3rd rounder, 2nd rounder to, as we seemingly predicted, to being a top 5 pick.
Top 5. Yeah.
Top 5 pick. These are guys that can have that confidence, right? But there's a time in this stage where it's a pivotal point in your development to get that confidence. That's why this is so much more different than the NHL. The NHL is a whole other level, obviously, multiple. These are young teenagers that can go one way or the other when it comes to getting down on your abilities. And the best thing about being young is normally you don't give a shit. You have that confidence, you can bounce back, and players on the Hounds, look at Martin, you look at Reed, you got Carter George in between the pipes, you got the tools in place. And it's okay to struggle throughout points of the season. It builds team chemistry. It's the way you rebound and when you come out when it matters. And the way that the Sioux Greyhound team is built, the way that they're built is to play those games that matter. And that's what I'm interested to see. And I thought that's a point that, I made up on my own, but I had a conversation with that with this fellow Siouxite, saying that it's going to be exciting to see the players on this team in a time when it matters. And pressure's on John Dean here this year a little bit. I know people may think, and I'm not a John Dean pointer, blamer, where some people are.
No, but you can't ignore it.
Exactly.
At the same time.
You can't.
And like I'm a supporter. I'm a big supporter of whoever's at the helm too. Like you're correct. Like you're right. I'm exactly like you. Like whoever has the team. Actually, it's a big quote from my dad. Really, he always says you got to go and support because if you don't, they're gonna leave. Like what if they weren't here, right? If nobody supported, they would go elsewhere. The team would move. Whoever's there, you got to support them, and I do. Raftis, all the way from Raftis at the top to all the way down to Blake Aerosmith and the guys that are Tobias Walensky, the guys that are going to get more playing time in their future. And I'm a sport too, but you're right, you can't ignore it, and there is going to be pressure. But I think as a competitor, you kind of put that out of your mind too, right? Like you're focused on what's more important, and what's more important right now is to win hockey games, and what's more important is to win the first round, win the second round, win the third round, like win game one, win game two, win the next games. Yeah. And the thing about some of the kids on this roster is they've been there before. They've been down in the thick of it. Game 7 against Saginaw, they were oh so close. A lot of this core was part of that game 2 years ago. So that's what's going to come into play too.
Yep.
And
Well,
yeah, it's the
those
most
are
exciting time. It's the
it
most
is.
exciting time of the year
It is, and
for
this is
Greyhounds fans.
and this is where teams in the league have different struggles, or some of they're achieving, and what all matters at the last game of the year.
Yeah. Yes.
Get to the dance. Just get to the frickin' dance. Get to the dance. And then when you get to that dance, you move over and you strive for prom king, baby. You get in there, you battle your way and you play the way that you should. That's the way the mindset has to be. And the Hounds, and I'll go to other teams. I talked about Ottawa. I talked about teams that are playing more sub 500. Even Flint is 6-3, still good. Don't get me wrong, but that's not 8-1, 9-1 that a lot of top teams play. There's teams going through different emotions and roller coasters in a year, and it's going to be very interesting. It almost seems I think one of the most obvious matchups, there's two obvious matchups, and they're both the 4-5 seeds in each of the conferences.
Yeah.
Sioux and London, and then you got Peterborough and North Bay. Right, those almost seem like you're prepping for that, but you can't think that mindset. That's what fans and us can talk about. When you're the Hounds, you're striving for Flint. Then you're striving for Windsor, step at a time, grind. But
you can't take London lightly. That's a Greyhound night playoff series. When was the last time that happened? Long.
It's been a while, right?
It's been a while.
When the Hounds were
I
the
looked it
7th
up.
seed in 2016, who'd they beat? Sarnia?
Yes, Sarnia.
I think it was Sarnia. I'm trying to remember all that. There's a question.
That was Sarnia.
I think I was trying to remember the 2016 or
it's got to be
2016 or I think it's 2016. I think it was.
How's it that it happened? Where's Chris? Where's Chris Fee? Chris Key on Facebook. We need him.
We need some of that response.
Yeah.
Sue, comment below. So Trudes, I think last week, did we tease an all Greyhound lineup? Did you do any notes?
We did. I do have it. I could do it quickly.
We have a couple minutes. You go ahead.
Okay.
I'm leaving this one to you. I liked Brandon's approach to this.
Okay.
Given time, I'm going to tell the listeners what this is. We're going to tease. We'd like to tease. Sorry, last week we teased who we think the best Sault Ste. Marie Greyhound lineup is. Forward.
Well, defense. I did it differently.
Okay.
I did it. I'm only, I was born in 97, so I did it 2000s. So it's kind of like a quarter century.
Okay.
Because I didn't feel like I could do an all time. Like, you know what I mean?
Fair. Because the
Greyhound. What I have watched.
Yeah, I like that because there's going to be the obvious guys from when they had 200-point seasons. So the couple guys there. So I like that. So you're doing a quarter century.
Yes.
Okay, I like that. So let me rephrase everybody. Quarter century team is what Jordan Trudeau is doing for your enjoyment, and don't hesitate to comment below or agree or leave us your feedback. So Trudes, are you going from 2000 to 2000 or 2026? I should say.
Let's see that. Let's stay that.
Okay.
But leaving off any current player on the roster.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm going to go with from 2000s, so this is my eyes growing up Sault Ste. Marie from when I was 4 years old to now watching this team. I did my top 6. I did top 6. It was very difficult for me. Like, so
Yes.
many great players have come through this organization. And so I do have honorable mentions as well because I couldn't not have honorable mentions. I'm going to go with, I do 3 forwards, 2D, and a goalie. So full line. Forward number 1 is Morgan Frost. He just like he's high up, second on the point totals in Greyhounds history. And he was part of a couple really, really good teams, the huge record-breaking winning team in 2018.
Like that.
Second forward is Jeff Carter. I think that's kind of an obvious choice. He had his jersey retired this year for the organization, and he is one of the best forwards to ever come out of the OHL, let alone be in a Sioux Greyhound uniform. Nick Cousins is my third forward. I think he was a player that you you've got really used to love watching because he came in at a time where I think the Greyhounds were coming off of some really big struggling years, and he was kind of like a breath of fresh air for Greyhound fans. And he had some they had some good teams there. I don't know if they ever got too far in the playoffs, but he definitely was a part of some really solid lineups and some solid rosters. The early parts of the Dubas era for the Sioux Greyhounds. 2 defensemen, I got Colin Miller and Jordan Smith.
Love
Some
that.
toughness,
Friends of the show, close friends of the show.
maybe some bias, I guess. They're both from Sioux State Marine, but you can't deny those accolades and those the things that they.
I believe. Hello, if I'm wrong. Hey, one of us is.
But anyway, high school hockey to the NHL. Jordan Smith, one of the toughest defensemen, if not the toughest I've ever watched. And then my goalie, I got to go with the all-time in wins, Kyle Gajewski, the Juice.
Oh, baby.
So that's my roster.
Baby.
I gotta mention the honorable mentions too because I was bothered. Mac Hollowell. I mean, he was outstanding. He was an outstanding defenseman, especially in his overage year. He was all over the ice that year. I can remember watching it.
I first saw him. I was like, "Who's this little guy?
Outstanding.
Who's this little guy?
Amazing.
So good.
Darnell Nurse
So good.
Darnell Nurse was a huge part of Kyle Dubas. He was kind of like a cornerstone. Kyle Dubas' roster. Yep. Jared McCann, if he had his 19-year-old year in the OA, I would have loved to see. He would have been over 100 points easily. Team Canada, World Juniors, but Vancouver did keep him up for his 19-year-old years. He's obviously having.
I remember being very upset about that.
Me too, but he's kind of rebounded and his career is flourishing in the NHL. And then the late Ray Emery as the honorable mention for goalie. And that's through my eyes right there.
You obviously can't go wrong with any of those. So this has inspired me a little bit that I actually am going to join the discussion on this because I have to. It's just I have to with this, and it's challenging because it's hard to not be biased in these situations. And I was muttering between a lot of players, and I like how you didn't include current players in this and all-time players. You could think of legends, Thornton, Gretzky, like that would be the easiest answers. Sorry. Yeah, I can't forget that as well. Like there's names on there that you may not remember that I remember. Jeff Richards.
Yeah, the Memorial Cup team.
And Corey
Pecker. Yeah.
Like Corey Pecker from the early thousands. And if you look at like mid 2010 standouts, obviously I'll mention Blake Spears on there. I know I got obviously men's league legend now with yours truly, played against him last night. Morgan Frost, Saxon Eshin, right? And you got some
Boris Kachuk,
some names
there. Yeah.
There's a lot of talent that has been able to be seen. So I'm going to actually go in a different direction, and I was torn how to go with this a little bit because I am a Morgan Frost fan. When he was here, I was also a fan of obviously Corey Pecker. When he was here, I remember Corey Pecker. I remember Wayne Simmons when he was here, but he didn't have a long tenure, right? So I'm looking at players that have had some of that tenure, and I did mention one of the players that I am going to mention as the forward. So to go from forward, defense, and goalie to wrap up, and I'm even going to throw the coach in there.
Ooh.
So Forwards up front, big bias here. Friend Tyler Kennedy. I'm giving Tyler Kennedy on the left side with Jeff Carter, Morgan Frost. Those are people that I'm saying before the current core, before that, going Kennedy, Carter, and Frost. On defense, I'm friends with both Smitty and Miller, and they're my honorable mentions, okay? And I can confirm Miller, obviously from White Pines, can confirm that over to the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds, Captain Miller time, and trained with him with Cowan. This guy, I was like, who is that? Right? Like, and he made it. The guy worked his rear end off, went from the White Pines to junior A with the Birds right to the O. It was great. But Kennedy, Carter, Frost, when it comes to up front on defense, I want a little bit different direction. It's hard to ignore these two. And again, sorry, Miller and Smitty. From the bottom of my heart, Smitty, please don't get mad at me. Millsy, don't get mad at me. You've been on the show 5 times, man. I want you to come back on another time. Trevor Daley and Ryan Sproul. Okay, I had to go with those two on the defense because of just what Sproul did, obviously. And he's also a friend of the show, so it's hard. And in goal, come on.
Daley.
Come on. How could I forget Kyle Kajewski? Kyle Kajewski. Like every minute I went to that ring, I remember
classic. Yeah.
The best. Loved all of that. So Kennedy, Carter, Frost, Daley, Sproul.
I'm upset about Daley. Why didn't I? Well, see, that's the thing. He was a little more. I was younger. I was probably only 3 or 4 when he played. So that's honestly probably why. But yeah, he's another legend.
I was 8, 9, right? So and then for coach, I gotta give a little love to Sheldon Keefe. I gotta give love to Sheldon Keefe, to be honest with you. I was always a fan when Kiefer was a coach with the Hounds, and I know that's not gonna be a proper take because there's one more coach that was obviously here that had a time. Hartsey, right? There's been other coaches, so it's hard to say. And I know that's gonna give me some heat. Maybe even from Hartsey himself. He might not like that. But I'm going to give it to Kiefer. So those are our picks. Everyone can comment below. Gary will have this as a clip for you to enjoy on TikTok if you haven't been already here, or from their Facebook page from our lineup that we have. So you can definitely interact below on that. Any final thoughts you got, Trudes, for Chuck Puck before we wrap up? A little bit longer of a segment, but you were overdue for a longer segment because there's only 2 segments this show. So you had the time. Yeah. We're still within the hour. Still within the hour, so we're good.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, well, I don't wonder how supper's going. I better get down for supper now. But of course, I enjoyed our talk today and our discussion. No, final thoughts. That. We haven't seen some strong play of late, but we've really seen some positive things come out of this organization. One being just Marco Mignosa, the kind of the attention he's gotten from the league and just his personal accolades of late have been really positive for this team. And it's hockey's funny. These teams that are 9-0 right now and 9-1 and 8-1, that could change quick and
change next week.
You never know. So you gotta just keep moving forward and just forget about what happened last week. It's a new week and just let's keep supporting these guys. It's a exciting time. I see they put out their contest again, the Paint the Town Red contest. So that'll get the city involved and yeah, it's just support them now and it'll pay off. Hopefully they'll give us a good show come the end of March.
Something more to talk about here on Chuckapuck, but also in the community. Trudes, well said, my friend. Great segment. Glad I gave you the extra time that you were overdue for on this invaded hockey agenda of the Game Sports podcast. So going to get to the wrap up point here. I want to say thank you to everyone who took the time to join yours truly for the first half, Trudes for the second half. And to remind you as well, not just to get into the conclusion point, but getting to social media at the Game Sports Podcast, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all audio platforms, 1N, and of course through Spaces at the Game Sports Podcast, or on Spaces is through Sports and the Hockey page, and 91N is YouTube, 91 Network. And we appreciate all the support online. We've had our followers have went significantly higher over the past couple of weeks. It's been great to see the interaction, especially from a local and an outside Sault Ste. Marie perspective. We had some involvement from the States. We've had some from Southern Ontario, some from Halifax, some from Vancouver. We love it. That makes it very, very enjoyable for us. And we've been around for over 10 years. So if you're new to this, we've definitely been around a long time to talk, and please don't be afraid to interact with us on whatever platform that you're enjoying us on. Nonetheless, everyone had a vacation day today, Trudes, except you and I. I don't get vacation days for this, but appreciate you taking the time again, my friend, and we'll be back next week.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me, Dave.
It's fun. And again,
thanks for having me.
Of course, Trudes, of course.
And we'll see you next week.
100%. Excited to have you back on next week.
Right.
And again, remind all the listeners out there, make sure that you hit like, follow, and subscribe. And until next week, here to remind you to keep your stick on the ice, swing your bats, catch your touchdowns, drain your threes, and shoot your shots. Booyah.